Israeli jets pound Meis El Jabal, Kafr Tibnit and Dabeen, ignoring a US-French brokered truce. While the Lebanese Prime Minister denounces intimidation and aggressions, asking the world, where is Israel's commitment? The Lebanese Army counts more than 4,500 violations. Washington urges Beirut to disarm Hezbollah, while the IDF vows to crush the elite Radwan Force. Ceasefire lines blur. How long before the fragile calm collapses into open war? Lebanon has condemned new Israeli airstrikes on 3 southern towns, accusing Israel of once again violating its truce with Hezbollah. Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, in a post on X, accused Israel of intimidation and aggressions committed in defiance of last year's ceasefire and the internationally backed mechanism to monitor it.
In response to the threats issued by the Israeli army targeting the towns of Meis El Jabal, Kafr Tibnit and Dabeen, and what accompanied them in terms of urgent evacuation warnings for homes, it is important to me to repeat that the Lebanese government, which adheres to the path of ceasing hostile actions, affirms that it is engaged in the meetings of the mechanism. But the legitimate question today, where is Israel's commitment to these mechanisms? And how is it conceivable that it continues to practice intimidation and aggressions, while these meetings are supposed to ensure the full implementation of Resolution 1701 and the cessation of hostile operations?
Salam urged the international community, particularly ceasefire sponsors, to exert maximum pressure on Israel to halt its attacks.
Accordingly, Lebanon calls on the international community, especially the countries sponsoring the agreement to cease hostile operations, to exert maximum pressure on Israel to immediately stop its aggressions and to return to the mechanism and the agreement to cease hostile operations and its obligations, including the withdrawal from the Lebanese territories it still occupies, the cessation of aggressions, and the release of prisoners.
The US and France brokered ceasefire was agreed upon by the governments of Israel and Lebanon, as well as all relevant groups, including Hezbollah. The ceasefire brokered in November 2024 requires Hezbollah to withdraw north of the Litani River and Israel to pull back from southern Lebanon, with Lebanese forces monitoring the area. However, Israel continues near-daily airstrikes on Hezbollah targets, retaining some positions, while Hezbollah sporadically retaliates with rocket fire, making the ceasefire fragile and frequently violated. Tensions remain high despite reduced large-scale fighting. Earlier, the Lebanese Army announced that Israel had carried out more than 4,500 violations since the ceasefire took effect. The attacks have disrupted efforts to place all weapons under state control, a plan that began south of the Litani River. On August 5th, the Lebanese cabinet decided that all arms in the country, including Hezbollah's, should be consolidated under the state. The army was tasked with preparing a plan by the end of August and implementing it by year's end. Hezbollah Secretary General Naim Qassem has said the group will only hand over its weapons once Israel withdraws from Lebanese territory, halts attacks, releases detainees, and reconstruction begins. Concurrently, the fourth phase of transferring weapons from Palestinian refugee camps to Lebanese security forces was completed last Saturday. Meanwhile, US Ambassador to Lebanon Lisa Johnson on September 18th said that the Lebanese government is expected to take further steps to implement its decision to bring all weapons under the state's monopoly. According to a report aired on a private Lebanese television channel, Johnson made the remarks during a ceremony at the US Embassy in Beirut.
Since Lebanon signed the ceasefire agreement with Israel in November last year, the work carried out by the Lebanese Army has been tremendous, but it is not enough, and more needs to be done.
While applauding the Lebanese government's decision to consolidate weapons under state control, Johnson emphasized that larger steps are needed. Israel announced on September 18th a new round of airstrikes targeting Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon, aimed at preventing the group from re-establishing its presence in the region, Times of Israel reported. Prior to the strikes, the IDF issued evacuation warnings for 4 sites, later expanding the order to include areas around 2 additional buildings. IDF Arabic language spokesman Kol Avichai Adrai said the operations were in response to Hezbollah's prohibited attempts to rebuild its activities in the area.
To the residents of Gaza City and all those present in it, the Israel Defense Forces are conducting an operation to defeat Hamas inside Gaza City. Starting from this moment, and in order to facilitate the departure of those leaving the city, we announced the Mawasi area as a humanitarian zone, where efforts are being made to provide better humanitarian services.
He published maps of the targeted buildings, calling residents and those close by to evacuate immediately and distance yourselves from them by no less than 500 meters. The strikes were carried out in 2 main waves, following evacuation warnings to residents of Meis El Jabal, Kafr Tibnit, Dabeen, Chehabiyeh, and Burj Kalawiya. The IDF said later on September 18th that the strikes had targeted several weapon depots belonging to Hezbollah's elite Radwan Force. The Radwan Force was previously tasked with invading Israel, and the IDF says the elite unit had advanced the terror group's Conquer the Galilee plan for years, until the 2023-2024 war that saw most of Hezbollah's leadership eliminated. The IDF said in a statement,
The Hezbollah terror organization continues its attempts to restore terror infrastructure in southern Lebanon, especially the Radwan unit, with the aim of harming the state of Israel. Hezbollah's efforts to restore the Radwan Force were a violation of the ceasefire, and added that troops have been operating over the past 2 years against the unit's attempts to recover and rebuild its strength.